Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another edition of Miami Revealed. Today is June 10th, 2024. My name is Frank Michel, your host as always. Today's going to be a very interesting show. If you notice, we are not in our regular studios. Right now, we're at the studios in my favorite part of the city of Miami, District 1, Alapata. The biggest district in the city of Miami with the most homeless, the most elderly people, the most crime, and the most neglected by our so-called city manager, Francisci Corn, Maple Leaf Mayor, who's an embezzler, and then all the other commissioners that spend our tax dollars traveling or getting sued for violating people's rights and then wanting us to pay for what they do. Today, I'm so happy to have a very good man here with us today, Max Martinez. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am so happy that you're here.
Appreciate it.
And salud. We got to do the little cafecito thing. Because if we didn't, it wouldn't be Miami. This week has been a very tumultuous week in the city of Miami. We've had, 4 shootings?
3 to 4. 3 or 4. At least 4.
4?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, Max, you're running for mayor of Miami. And you already, tell us what you did to prepare for this, for the run.
To prepare for my first run in 2021, I saw an opportunity. I saw someone who had won in 2017 with 21,000 votes and said, that's way too low of a number for such a big city. I can beat that number. The forces that worked against me, I fought for 348 days and...
So we're talking about the Cuban mafia, just say it.
I'm not Cuban, so I don't say it, but for 300...
But that's the name that it's been labeled. The Miami Mafia or the Cuban Mafia, it's the same thing. It's a mafia.
It's a group of family political dynasties who are trying to use all the funds that residents have as their own bank account.
You mean our tax dollars they're using and abusing?
Exactly.
So that's called extortion or fraud.
It is. It is.
Okay? What do you, as mayor, intend to do to stop all this waste of our money? Because, we're like, the 4th or 5th poorest city in the United States of America.
You wouldn't know that through social media and everything, but yeah, it's true.
Well, everybody wants to show Braco as this, metropolis that only has $1 million condos. You're next to the Key Biscayne. You're next to the park. You're next to the American Airlines Arena, where we have all these great basketball games and sometimes concerts. We haven't had one there in many, many years due to, the COVID. But one of the other things is, let's use this example. The Miami Marlins Stadium, or whatever it's called now. Somebody lends money to somebody and that's the name of the stadium. Right? But in more practicality, it's called Miami Marlins Stadium. Nobody goes there.
Nobody goes there, and now it's called Loan Depot Park, which is very fitting for what it is. anyone who invests is going to need a loan these days, and you know exactly where to go.
Well, it's funny because 2 days ago, I was driving by there because I live close by there because I live in Alapata. And I was with my son, and there was a baseball game on. It was empty. It was completely empty. And people don't want to go because, one, the traffic is horrendous. It takes you 2 hours to go and just to leave the stadium. Okay? Then you're going to pay, $12 for a hot dog?
You gotta pay $12 for a hot dog, and to be fair, that's more expensive than the actual Marlins ticket, because no one's going to go watch a team that starts 0-10, fires their general manager after making the playoffs for the first time in 20 years. It's a very, very accurate microcosm of what Miami actually is, and that's disorganized chaos, and certain individuals making money and exploiting them.
Well, since we touched on the Miami Marlins Stadium or the Lone Depot Stadium, it should be called the Miami Whole Depot Stadium because remember they stole $15 million of our taxpayers' money without even giving us the chance to vote on it, and gave it to the Miami Marlins back then. And then the city of Miami conveniently gave away the land where the Orange Bowl was, and that was a historical landmark
It was
that should have been protected. It was built in 1928, I believe.
5 national championships.
Exactly. Not to mention the only team in the NFL with the perfect record, the Miami Dolphins. That now maybe people even go to the new stadium by the Robert line to see the games. And it is unfortunate because we have so much potential here in the city of Miami, but it seems to me, and it's obvious, and you can look this up in the papers or the articles or whatever you want, that unless some of these sons of bitches, some of these clowns that buy their way into a commission seat or like Francis Corn, okay? First, he won't come out of the closet. So right there, he's living a lie. Secondly, he takes and uses our cops to stand and watch in front of his house 24/7, whether he's there or not,
That's very true.
at our expense, and we're paying for that. Now, this week we had 4 shootings in the city of Miami.
Yep.
That cop right there, sitting in front of his house, what do you think it could have been used for?
Probably preventing those shootings.
Thank you. But no one has the courage to say anything and say, hey, you're just, pissing away our money just so you can make yourself look good. Okay, because, that is, the classic syndrome of a narcissist. And it's funny because why is it that always those little short guys, Napoleon, Hitler, Mussolini, Caesar, all the other guys, Genghis Khan, they're all short. I guess it has to go with that kind of, lack of ego
Yeah.
or self-respect.
I mean, ego's a big thing, part of it, but also when you grow up as the son of the mayor of Miami.
You mean, wait. You mean the son of the mayor, the only mayor in history that has been thrown out of being the mayor by a judge in a court system for voter fraud. So that's not the legacy that I would want.
Remember what happened in 2013? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Fraudulent petitions, sure enough, you got to drop out of the race, and Regalado jumps right in. So Francis's presidential plan, delayed by 4 years, unfortunately for him, he couldn't even qualify to get on the Republican debate stage, and his political career should be over after this.
Well, it's going to be over after the world finds out that he travels around the world with city of Miami cops, regular cops, police officers. They have absolutely no jurisdiction, none whatsoever, outside of Miami-Dade County, or better yet, outside of the city of Miami proper. Now, the city of Miami is only 29 square miles. That is nothing. I know boroughs in New York and in Manhattan that are bigger than the city of Miami.
Absolutely. I mean, it's literally from Grand Avenue and basically Lejeune Douglas all the way up to 85th. That's all Miami is, and it's not very far west, and it's pretty much the coast. 29 square miles is not a lot of space to cover, yet we still have all these shootings going on.
Well, and the reason why we have the shootings going on, because let's face it, you're only as good as your leadership. Okay, and you have no leadership. What? And let's say it in this kind of metaphor. How is your army going to fight and defend whatever land or ideals are set forth when your leadership is showing you that they don't really care?
They don't, and they haven't cared. I mean, it was evident in 2021 when, this baller police chief comes in and says, hey, these are 3 problem people that are creating a lot of issues within the commission. Sure enough, he uses the word mafia, and all of a sudden, he's gone. So the city of Miami is left with no police chief. The week right after, a little Havana store gets burgled. A grandpa gets killed. It's the same story over and over again. And here we are 3 years later talking about the same issues of no leadership, no army, no organization, and no one trusting in anyone protecting them.
Well, how do you trust anyone in our local government when every single one of them is under investigation by various agencies? The IRS, the SEC, the DOJ. I know that here in Miami-Dade County, as long as Fernandez Rondo, and in my opinion, if we have a mafia, she's the grandmother. She's the grandmother of the mafia. Okay, because none of these politicians, local politicians, gets prosecuted by her office unless you're enemy to them. If not, 99.9% of the time, she has to conflict herself out and send to somebody else to do the investigation and to prosecute because she's conflicted. Why is she conflicted? Well, we don't have term limits for the state attorney. And since the beginning of humanity and history, the one truth is absolute power corrupts absolutely. And here is a prime example of why term limits are so important. She's been in that office for 20-something years, and how many of these, let's just say, look at all these cops that have been indicted and arrested by federal agencies for molesting, raping, and abusing children and elderly, some of them in police cars, some of them inside the police station. And you know why they get away with that? Because that code that cops have, and I was a cop for 27 years, and I know the code very well. I just didn't believe in it. And I still don't. That's why I've always been a target for the city of Miami. Because, I don't abide by that code that, hey, no matter what the cop does, don't say nothing. If he gets caught, that's on him, but you can't say anything. And if you do, all it takes is one cop to say, oh, that guy's so good, you can't trust him, he's not Q or U, or he's shaky, or whatever, and no cop will ever talk to you or trust you again. And most of the time, they won't even back you up.
Essentially, you get blackballed.
You get blackballed. Same thing with the local politics. How dare Arroyo demand or ask that we, the taxpayers, pay the $65 million verdict against him? How is that permissible? Why hasn't, and I am in favor of most of what Governor DeSantis does, but why hasn't the governor, just on that haste to put forth and ask or say or demand that we pay for what he did?
We do.
Right there, they should have just removed him.
Well,
They should have just removed him right there. And then, to top it off, the insurance company, and I know it well, because, obviously that's, I've been in the insurance business for 20 years. And I've had cases against QBE, which is a huge insurance company, right? They insure everything. And I've sued them enough times, and we prevailed because, we were right and they were wrong. But now, even they say, we're not going to pay. We're not going to pay it. And now QBE is suing the city of Miami, in other words, are suing us for allowing this tragedy to happen. And still, You know, we have morons that continue to vote for criminals and embezzlers, money launderer like De La Portilla, who everybody knows has been a criminal all his life.
If I can add something
You can
in
please.
there, how they keep getting elected is the interesting thing. Because the way they get elected is not in 2022, and not in 2024, not in 2026, but they use off-cycle election years to disengage people, distract them, so that they have no idea what's actually going on locally. So when you say how are people electing these corrupted officials, they're not. They're not even being told that they have a choice of change. For example, Francis Suarez I ran against him in 2021. No one covered the election. No one covered Carollo versus Quinn, and no one covered Christine King in District 5. Then 2 years later, you have 1, 2, and 4. That's 2023, the time people are least politically engaged. So you do that after Senate years, after presidential years. People are politically tired. They're not thinking about their local government. But that's the issue, because your local municipal government is who is in control of your everyday reality. When you open your door every day, what you see is not Joe Biden, is not Donald Trump, is not Ron DeSantis, is not Ronald Reagan's fucking fault. It is your municipal leaders who have continued to build on this trend over time.
And it's funny you mentioned that, okay? Because, you know, and I'm going to quote Shakespeare, because I'm a history fan. I've got two passions, history and astrophysics. And I'll quote the Shakespeare from, I believe it was Hamlet. And there's a passage where, I believe it was Hamlet, that says, you know, either the blind are leading the fools, or the fools are following the blind. And here is what we have. We have, you know, I have sent so much videotapes, paperwork, text messages to our local state attorney, De La Portilla, bought the elections in 2020. Okay? You know, paid everybody $100 to vote. And what do? They go to all these places where they have the elderly people, and what they do is they say, listen, here's $100, vote for this guy. And they say, no, they're not going to do it. Well, you know what they do? They, the management companies that are in cahoots with these people, because they pay them off too, they go, hey, either you vote for this guy, or you know what, we're going to raise your rent. And as soon as you can't pay it, we're going to throw you on the street.
Yep, or they'll request their vote by mail ballot illegally, get it sent to the home, and do it for them.
I made a report in the 2020 election where a lady was going to vote for me, and when she walked to the mailbox in one of the low-income buildings, and two of these asshole firemen, and this is an older lady from Honduras, asked her, "Who are you going to vote for?" And she said, "I'm voting for Pichel." And they said, "No, you're not." And they ripped the ballot out of her hands, threw her on the floor, ripped the ballot up, and threw it in the trash. And we called the police. The police went out there. They made a bullshit report. I called Internal Affairs. They laughed at it, and the video was elected. Now, all these investigations, fake employees, no show-up employees, and it's the same two bitches that he uses on all the campaigns to do all this fraud. Jenny's one of them. Okay, is that the youngie blonde one?
Don't know.
Okay, well that one, well Jenny, and then the other blonde bitch that should be in jail with Portilla, because she's the one that takes the money to the old people and basically pays them off. And nobody does anything. They, everybody knows it. Everybody knows who is doing what, but no one is doing any criminal investigation, or any real criminal investigation to catch these people on the committing the fraud, the voter fraud. Now, how embarrassing do you think that it is, and that we look to every other city in the nation, let's say the world, that our prosecutor can't even prosecute a crooked, evil criminal like De La Portilla, who's been arrested 7 times now. He's facing 30 years of prison for money laundering, bribery. Now he even has witness tampering.
Yeah, I saw that.
Witness tampering. Okay, but you know why they're so bold? Because they say, they never can do anything to me anyway, so why should they stop? You know, it's like when I used to preach crime prevention. And one of the scenarios was the broken window syndrome. And, you know, if you have pride in your home and in your neighborhood, you get a broken window, anybody has any pride in their property, in their neighborhood, will go fix it because it's a blight. It's a blight on your property, and then an expense to the neighborhood. So the criminals go by and they say, well, you know, that window's been broken for 3 months, nobody cares. I'm going to break into that house and every other house in this neighborhood, because you know what? Nobody really cares. And that's what happens. So see, and then now you mentioned our little municipality. All right? There's another saying that goes, you know, think globally, but act locally, because that's all we can do. All we can do is think globally, but act locally, because here is where everything starts. The good and the bad, the negligence and the pride of what we have. And our nation right now has become city of Miami has become like the role model of our entire nation.
I mean, it's actually interesting you say that, because the disengagement of the city of Miami's politics and the way people don't participate in it is just so completely different than the rest of America, because here there's 11 to 12% voter participation, whereas the United States, imagine if only 11% of the United States, whether you believe it was stolen, whether you believe it was real, whatever you believe, imagine if only 11% of the United States was represented by that person you selected. In Miami, that is the actual case. 10 to 12% of residents elect their local officials. And I don't know if you can call that a democracy, because it sure as heck isn't.
Well, first of all, we're not a democracy. We are a republic. Okay? Now, if people want to steal our republic by saying that it's a democracy, well, that right there is a fraud. Right? Because this nation, read the holy, the Magna Carta of what we have as laws, which is called the Constitution. And it says there, the United States is founded as a republic. Nowhere does it say that we are a democracy. Because right now, democracy is, let's say, a bullshit word to cover up National Socialism or communism or any type of ism. The only thing about that ism is that it isn't for us.
Yeah.
And out of those 11% or 12% that vote here, Max, you've been in this a long time. You're a very intelligent person, and that's the only reason why I support you for mayor. 100%, and I have. Out of those percentage, and they're very tiny, how many of those would you gauge or pin as to the percentage of people that are being bought and paid to vote a certain way?
Almost 95% of the amount.
So then from 11 to 12% that vote, then 9% are all fraud.
Almost, and I'm just going to use an example because I know the numbers, but Francis Suarez in 2021, I believe, got elected with something like 21,872 votes
Mhm.
in 2017, excuse me. How does he become more famous, get hundreds of thousands more Twitter followers, become a national person? How does he get less votes a second time? How does he
That's-
get less votes?
that's very-
He's become more popular. That makes absolutely no sense, and that's why I feel that every single one of those 20,000 votes was, like you said, somewhat, coerced.
No. This is the truth. They were fraud, and they were paid off, or they were threatened off, because in 17 when he ran, the powers that be put in $4 million into his PAC, and then scared everybody out of running against him. And I remember him because I was close to the Thraj family for 20 years. I used to drive that punk and his father around for years and years and years. And I was their right hand guy. They're gonna deny it all they want. I don't care. There's thousands of people that know the truth, and they'll say the truth. Okay, and I know everything this little sick bastard would do and say. Okay, because he is some kind of quasi-sexual predator from everything he's told me. Now, he just walked into that title, and years before that, he would tell everybody, "Oh, I already made a deal. I'm going to be the next mayor of Miami." So he already knew it. So our whole democracy, quote unquote, was stolen by a group of special interest people that have absolutely no desire in democracy. They have no desire in the republic. All they want to do is for the city to give them the land from Melby's golf course, so they can put a hotel there, or no, not a hotel, a soccer stadium called the Freedom Park, which nobody's going to go see. The traffic is going to be 20 times more horrendous than the Lone Depot place.
Okay, they haven't even broken ground yet.
Well, they can't. You know why they can't? And I'm going to tell you why they can't. Because that park was a dumping ground since the 40s.
Okay.
And the reason why it was a dumping ground was because, like I said, I'm a history student. When World War II started, they had to bring in a lot of Allied service people. And Miami and Opa-locka and the Florida Keys was converted basically into military bases to train all their pilots. So that's right next to the airport. Okay, the Miami airport was this big. It was nothing. It wasn't even called Miami Airport, it was called somebody's field. And we had German U-boats right off the coast here, all the way up from Canada down to the Florida Keys. In fact, if you go down to the Florida Keys and you go diving in one of the reefs, there's still the skeletal remains of a German U-boat that was sunk there by the Coast Guard. And I've dove in on that site several times. So what did they do? Since it was that land was vacant, Miami was very small, they used that land there to dump every single thing that they didn't need or broke or used, in the oil and everything in that area.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I didn't know all of that, and explains a lot why they haven't broken ground yet. But when it comes to the breaking of the ground, look what they did. They took away the only public golf course in the city of Miami's limits. The one thing that people want more of, residents want more of, is green space that aren't empty lots. And all we have are empty lots, and then the green space, the golf course that people use, is now done because of a MLS stadium owned by, the Moss Brothers. That it is what it is.
It is.
Now, it hasn't broken ground yet. My point being is, how long does it take for a stadium to complete? Let's say at its
Well,